Hello and welcome to the live one here on BNet. I'm your host, Priya David Clemens. Today is Thursday, October 13th. I'm joined in studio by the lovely Lindsay Blakely, who's senior editor here at BNet.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. Also joining us by Skype is Carmine Gallo. Carmine is the author of a brand new book called The Power of Foursquare, 7 Innovative Ways to Get Your Customers to Check In Wherever They Are. And I think they should add in a parentheses, and why it matters at all. So Carmine is going to introduce us a little bit more to the technology of Foursquare, which only started a couple of years ago, but has taken off like wildfire. Literally, we've got tens of millions of users out there, about 10 million users worldwide. Carmine, tell us how this all got started and what Foursquare is.
Yeah, well, Foursquare is really fun. It's a mobile social media network, a device that it's an app that allows you to explore your world and unlock your city. It's really a lot of fun and addictive for a lot of people. It illuminates, it informs, it inspires, but more than that, for businesses especially, it is a new tool to attract, reward, and engage customers in ways that, frankly, were never possible before, say, 2 years ago, before it actually started. In fact, I was actually just checking in, and I see that your folks are CBS Interactive. Are you on 232 Montgomery Street? Is that where you are?
Yeah, pretty close, 235,
Okay.
you know, a second, but, you know, not far.
There is a mayor. That means that somebody has checked into your office, to your building, enough times over the last 60 days to be designated the mayor. There are 1,500 people who have checked in just in your office building. So that's what the point that I'm trying to make to all business owners around the country and around the world. Whether you use this yourself, and you may be out of the demographic, but if you're a business owner, you need to know about this because your customers are using it. They're checking in already.
So, Carmine, you mentioned demographics. Can you explain a little bit who is the demographic behind Foursquare?
Right now, it does tend to skew younger because it is more of an early adopter time. But we do have more than 1 billion check-ins so far over the 2-year period. 35,000 new users are joining the platform every single day. And when it comes to merchants really run the gamut. Because merchants are everyone from the large brands like Bravo, ESPN, McDonald's, Starbucks, Walgreens. A lot of them are on the platform, but also small businesses around the world. This really is mobile is the new word of mouth for small business, and it levels the playing field because it is a free way for small businesses to start engaging people on mobile networks. And we know that mobile is simply the next extension of your social media experts.
So we talked about how there are 10 million users worldwide right now, which is a large number, but still small in comparison to something like Facebook.
Sure.
Why work with Foursquare if you're a business owner rather than just continuing to work with Facebook?
You should continue to work with Facebook. You should continue to work with Twitter. In fact, all of the case studies and the business owners who I have interviewed over the last 8 months, and I've interviewed dozens of them around the world, the most successful ones are the ones who have very established social media campaigns on Twitter and Facebook, and now Foursquare. But let me give you 1 or 2 examples of why it's so important. There's a guy named Joe Sorge. He's a restaurant owner in Milwaukee. He owns a restaurant called AJ Bombers. 2 years ago, in 2008 actually, he was having some pretty rough times. The keys had been handed back to him. He had sold the business. Things didn't quite work out. The keys were handed back to him. Very rough time, struggling financially. He was desperate. So he tucked himself away in his office for 6 months and learned social media, and really quite aggressively started using Twitter and Facebook to engage the patrons. And then in 2009, something came along called Foursquare. So what he started doing was actually hosting Foursquare parties, because Foursquare allows people to check in to any venue where they're at. So the people would walk into the restaurant and check in. But there's a gaming element to Foursquare. Foursquare also rewards people who are the mayor, the people who have checked in the most times over the last 60 days. You can also earn badges. There's a whole bunch. There's about 160 fun types of badges. Go to Starbucks 5 times and get the barista badge. People are crazy for these badges. They're really fanatical about it. But getting back to AJ Bombers, he hosted a swarm party. Because if you check in and 50 people are there at the same time, all checked into Foursquare, you earn the swarm badge. Now, that doesn't sound like much to you, but a lot of people really take a lot of pleasure in this. So he not only did get 50 people to check in, he had 150 people that day, and he was hooked. It was his biggest day ever. He has hosted these parties regularly and now has a special menu for the mayor and gives special promotions and specials for people who check in.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little. Apart from the outlay that you may put into the time of hosting a Foursquare event or, letting people know that you're there, is there anything that companies tend to do in order to bring people back, to keep business sticky, as it were, by offering special promotions, by spending money themselves on these customers who come in?
Absolutely. These are called loyalty specials. So as a merchant, your first step is to claim your venue. Once you've actually claimed your venue on Foursquare, and this whole process is going to take you less than 30 minutes. It's free, by the way, which is one of the selling points right now. Once you claim your venue, you as a merchant are able to engage and have conversations with your customers. One of the easiest ways of doing that is simply to attract new customers, offer them a special, make it something compelling and interesting and fun and meaningful, but you can offer a special for anybody who checks in. Like Chili's. Chili's is doing something very, very simple. Check in to any Chili's and get free chips and salsa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's only a $3 value. And so I asked the head of marketing at Chili's, I said, what are you getting out of that? And she said, Carmine, nobody comes in to Chili's for just free chips and salsa. And so they are seeing the number of check-ins at every location go up and up and up every week. So it's a way to separate themselves from, this is a great term, I've never heard of it before, the sea of sameness. Because the head of marketing at Chili's said most people can't tell the difference between an Applebee's or a Chili's or a Red Robin or whatever else is out there. But we are different in our cuisine and what we offer. So this just separates us even more. Right at the point of decision, oh, Chili's is offering a special. I'd rather go there because they're giving me something for free just for showing my smartphone.
So Carmine, when I think about small business owners and how they kind of relate to social media, I have to say I picture some of them maybe rolling their eyes when you talk about Foursquare, because to them, it's just yet another platform that they may or may not need to worry about. All of social media takes time. It's usually not just a send one tweet out and then you're done. It's usually a sort of constant project. What would you say to these small business owners? I mean, why should they jump on the bandwagon here with Foursquare, particularly when Google, which tends to be how a lot of people find small businesses. I mean, Google's doing a lot in terms of local deals and location-based stuff.
Yep.
What would you say about that?
Well, people are getting more familiar and more accustomed to using location-based services. Yelp has something quite similar, although it's more focused for restaurants. It's not quite as fun. It doesn't have the gaming aspect to it. But people are getting more and more familiar and comfortable with checking in. Well, that just adds to these type of services. You mentioned Google. Eric Schmidt, not too long ago, said the future of computing is mobile, and it's social, local, and mobile. Well, that's what Foursquare is. The point about this, and Priya, you bring up a really good point. Why should people do this? If you're a small business owner and you have a venue of any type, you already have a mayor. More likely than not, you have a mayor. People are already checking in. I was talking to the marketing director at Sweet Tomatoes. They didn't even know about Foursquare until their customers started asking them, why aren't you rewarding us for being here? And they asked, well, reward you for what? Well, we're checking in. We're checking in on Foursquare. You're not giving us anything for that. You're not encouraging our loyalty. Most of the business owners who I talked to got onto Foursquare for one reason, because their customers told them about it. And these customers are fanatics. I talked to a pizza chain owner, a small pizza chain owner in the San Francisco area a couple of days ago.
The Straw Hat?
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
But yeah, let's talk about Straw Hat. Let's focus on that one. There's a lot of pizza chains on Foursquare. It's perfect for them. Straw Hat, you brought up a good one. That's in my book. Straw Hat Pizza is a small chain trying to revitalize themselves. They used to be really hot in the 80s. Now there's a few stores around the Bay Area. And of course, they have to compete against Pizza Hut and Round Table and all the big boys. So they're trying to get more of a community feel. So Jonathan Fornacci, the CEO of the Straw Hat Pizza Parlor, really jumped onto social media in a big way. And he's aggressively using Foursquare. So what he's doing is creating a really compelling special. He said the typical pizza coupon is this. Buy a pizza and we'll give you a drink. Check in on Foursquare, though. Buy a drink, we'll give you a free pizza. And what he has found, you're asking me why should people do this? What Jonathan Fornacci found, and he showed me the data sheet, he said that when we put the same promotion on Foursquare versus email, typical email campaigns, which we've been doing for years, and on Facebook, the same promotions across all three platforms, Foursquare gives us a better return than both email and Facebook combined. That's why he's doing it. But it doesn't mean you neglect the others. It's just as a combination of the three.
Carmine, I know you've got some very solid tips for viewers on what to do and what not to do if you're going to be using Foursquare. Let's get into that a little bit right now. Let's start with the do's.
Let's start with connecting it to your brand.
Okay.
Make sure that it's aligned with your voice, with the brand's unique identity, with your brand's unique voice. You know, when I first started researching this, I kind of thought, like you, I said, well, this is probably good for bars or restaurants to check in, get a special. And then I interviewed somebody from the Corcoran Group. The Corcoran Group is the largest residential real estate company in America. It's based out of New York. They are aggressively on Foursquare, but they are not offering specials. It's not like you walk into an apartment and get 10% off a $2 million apartment in New York. That would be nice, but that's not what they're doing. Instead, they're using Foursquare to populate venues with tips, because on Foursquare, anybody can add tips and photographs and reviews. So what Corcoran is doing is they've created a brand. So there's a little Corcoran logo. And now when I go to New York City, almost anywhere I go, a Corcoran tip pops up. So it's just another way of extending what they already do. They're into localized knowledge. That's their specialty. That's their brand voice. And now they're offering localized knowledge in the palm of your hand. And college campuses are doing this as well. So there are a number of ways of aligning it with your brand. But that's what you need to keep in mind. What is my brand's voice, and how do I keep this consistent with what we're all about?
And just so we can keep moving on to the next screen as well, I know under the do's you also say create compelling rewards and have fun. And then when we go to the don'ts, the things that you really need to stay away from, you start with a landmine of make sure your employees are trained.
Please train your employees, and I think this is a big problem in customer service across the board, whether it's Foursquare or any marketing campaign. Most employees rarely know about a brand's marketing campaign, and there's nothing worse than walking into a store and saying, oh, I see you're on Foursquare. This is a great special. I'd like to take advantage of it, only to have the employee say, for what? I've never heard of it. That actually happens quite often. But what I've noticed is it's not a Foursquare related thing. It's a customer training issue that that company has.
So Carmine, we're getting a question here on the live chat about sort of the art and science of offering the rewards. I mean, what can you tell us about how to and how not to design an effective reward?
Yeah, what you do is any merchant, and again, this can take less than 30 minutes. You have to go to Foursquare.com. You do have to create an account for yourself, and then you claim your venue. And it takes you through a process to legitimize that you are who you say you are. Once you do that, you actually get the opportunity to create up to 7 different specials that go out instantly. You can have a newbie special that somebody unlocks just for the first time they come in. You can reward the mayor. And if you're going to reward the mayor, have fun with it. There's a restaurant in Baltimore called Miss Shirley's that has 2-hour lines on weekends for their breakfast. Their breakfast is that good, best breakfast in town. Well, the mayor gets to go to the front of the line. There's actually a special line for the Foursquare mayor. So have fun with the rewards. You can create loyalty specials, which means that I unlock a special every 3rd time I check in. The point is you're really only limited by the extent of your creativity. You can have so much fun with it, which is why in the book I talk to about 50 or 60 companies around the world who are doing interesting things with it, because I wanted to inspire people to think a little more creatively. Don't just push the same old tired coupons to people on their mobile devices. I don't think that will work successfully.
So, Carmine, you've definitely given us examples of how big businesses could use this or small businesses could use this. I mean, I can imagine whether it's a amusement park or a food truck that there's a place for people to come and check in. What if you're an individual or you don't necessarily have a location for your business, but you still want to use Foursquare to promote yourself?
Well, that's exactly the question I had when I first started. I thought this was simply something for venues specific. Until I started meeting consultants, I started meeting college recruiters and college campuses. They don't necessarily have a particular venue per se, but UC Berkeley and Stanford are using it as mobile tour guides. So they've actually populated information in Foursquare for all of the major places on campus. So if you're a student or a donor, you could actually walk around and get information just as like a walking tour guide. How about realtors? There's a realtor in my town who's aggressively using Foursquare. She's on Foursquare all the time. So now whenever I check into a place in my town, I see a tip, typically from this woman. I already know her name, Anna Campbell. Never met her before, but I already know her as a realtor.
What about somebody
we
like you, Carmine? I mean, you've got this new book out that you would like to promote. You know, you're a journalist. What about you? Do you use Foursquare?
I'm leaving tips. I'm leaving tips in all the venues that are using Foursquare creatively. I'm leaving tips in the venues that are in my book. And I have a photograph along with that venue of my book.
Is there an easy way then for customers to then click over and buy your book, for example?
Yes, within the Foursquare app, they can certainly, you can add a link in your tip or the recommendation. For example, just before I got onto this live show, I checked in to Gallo Communications Group. So I actually created a venue for my office. I don't give you specials per se, but I did check into Gallo Communications Group, and I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to be on live with CBS Interactive, BNet, in 15 minutes. As soon as I checked in, I gave the link to this link. Here's the point, and we haven't talked about this. Foursquare users link their check-ins to Twitter and Facebook.
Right, so you're getting more bang for your buck.
So when they're checking into your restaurant or your place of business and they're unlocking a special, they are sharing that special with people on their wider social networks. That's where the power comes in. So that's the tucked away hidden secret. You've got to use it in combination. You got to have a Twitter presence. You have to have a Facebook page. Now Foursquare is just the natural evolution and extension of your social media efforts. Bring it to the mobile device.
Carmine, I'm so sorry. I was just checking the clock there, and we are really out of time this morning, but it has been great to have you on. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge and bringing us this, The Power of Foursquare. The book is available right now on Amazon.com. You can get it on your Kindle, or the hardback's coming out soon as well. Thanks for being with us, Carmine.
You bet. Thank you. Lots of fun.
Lindsay, thanks for joining us here as well.
Always a pleasure.
And come on back on Tuesday, folks, for our Inside Business series. We've got Jennifer Finley, who's the founder of Too Good Gourmet Yum. She is coming in on Tuesday. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. See you then.